It's the final episode of UFC Connected for 2022, and here's what's coming up. Chito Vera shares the inspiring story of his fight to see his daughter smile.
This hunger came out of me. I was like, from now on, nothing is about me, and nothing will never be. I'm gonna win fights, I'm gonna make money, and pay the salary for Anna so she can smile.
Yazmin Jauregui reveals how violence in her home city nearly threatened her path to the Octagon.
Había un caos enorme sobre incendios y vandalismo. Sin embargo, como te digo, hacia lo que hago para lograr enfocarme en la pelea.
And Stephen Wonderboy Thompson takes us back to his highlight reel debut.
I brought my right leg up and landed right across his jaw, and it was over. Ninja flip at the end, landed it perfectly, and that was it.
Some athletes go to battle for fame, fortune, or glory. But every time UFC bantamweight Marlon Chito Vera steps into the Octagon, he is fighting for his family. Chito shares the story of his daughter Anna, who was born with facial paralysis due to a rare condition known as Mobius syndrome. Her birth lit a fire under Chito to succeed, all for the purpose of seeing her smile and providing his family with the very best life possible. Chito shares his incredible story in our first installment of Fighting for More.
The very first UFC fighter from Ecuador, Marlon Chito Vera.
When Anna was born, everything changed. From that moment on, everything I did was for my daughter.
Really his motivation for fighting is his family. A very tragic story about his daughter, which hopefully he can raise the money to get that sorted out and bring a smile to her face.
I'm Marlon Chito Vera, and I fight for my daughter's smile.
Here we go, guys. You ready? You ready? Let's fight.
When I was in 5th grade, my father moved the whole family to Guayaquil, which is a big city. Maria was on the same school. She was in a different classroom, but same age.
The first time I saw Chito, I fell in love with him. It was like love at first sight. But he didn't even like look at me, whatever. Like he was kind of popular, let's say, and I was just like another girl for him.
I didn't realize she liked me. Before we started dating, we were actually really close friends. One day we just kissed each other, and everything almost like took off from there. Like we started dating, and then I got kicked out of school the next year, of course.
When my family met Chito, I think they were not too happy about it because he was a troublemaker. But it is what it is. I was in love.
8 months before we graduated from high school, she got pregnant.
I got pregnant with Anna when I was 16 years old. I got really scared. I just started like, not even crying, I was like shocked. I told him that I'm pregnant. And we were just looking at each other, no words.
I was like, I don't know how to do anything. I'm a mess myself. And now I wanna be a father. Luckily, my whole family support me. Her family support her, and I think that helped us to kind of like grow our wings.
The day Anna was born, my mom took me to the appointment like to check if everything was okay. So the doctor told me like, oh, there's something wrong here. If the baby doesn't born today, you and the baby can die.
I was grappling, and my phone was nonstop, bro, vibrating. So I pick up, I was like, hey, what's up? And there's like, we're going to the hospital right now. Baby's coming out. Just run like a madman to the hospital.
Anna was emergency C-section, and she came to this world at 8:30 p.m.
Once it's over, the baby passed by us, and I saw Anna just by me, and something just hit me. I was like, she's not good. Something's going on. The doctor came in, and he's like, okay, guys, there's definitely something going on with her. It's not Down syndrome, but we're not very sure what condition she's born with. And everybody in that room was just like looking at each other like. I remember before when they did the imaging and everything to see her, everything was normal. How is happening? Why? Why to us? In the happiest day of your life, you receive the worst news. The kid is born with a condition. and there's nothing you can do about it. That just broke me.
48 hours after she was born, we figured out Anna had Moebius syndrome. I was confused. We were all confused. It's like, what is Moebius syndrome?
Universally, if you have Moebius syndrome, you cannot move your face or even actually rotate your eyes outwards from middle. It's an incredibly rare condition. Somewhere on the order of 1 in 50,000 to 100,000 people might have it. We don't know why Moebius syndrome happens. There's nothing genetically linked to Moebius syndrome that we know of. A lot of families think, well, what did I do wrong when I was pregnant with my child? Or did somebody in the family have it that sort of passed it along through the genes into this child? There's a lot of unknown.
I didn't know what Moebius syndrome was. We went to Google to check what's Moebius syndrome, but there's little information about the syndrome, and you can find there the worst case scenarios. So we just start talking like we need to give her the best therapies, the best life that she can live. It doesn't matter how much money we need to give her the best life, but we need to give her the best. One of the things that include that, it was the surgery, to see her daughter smile.
Everything just changed on my mind. The way I see things, the way I approach things, this hunger came out of me. I was like, from now on, nothing is about me and nothing will never be. I gotta make things happen for my daughter. I'm gonna win fights, I'm gonna make money and pay the surgery for Anna so she can smile. I was never gonna win a world title fighting out of Ecuador. The first factor was like moving to the US and going too tough. I was probably the shittiest fighter out of all of them back then. But they just didn't know the drive I have.
That was legit. Wow.
El cinturón rojo, estoy un poco cansado, pero fui fuerte y lo logré, lo hice.
Tranquilo, eso es tu inspiración, ¿sí o no? Ese momento es único y es tu hija, carnal.
Lo primero que haré estando en UFC es pagar lo que mi hija tiene, ¿no? Porque nunca la he visto sonreír y es por lo que estoy trabajando en esto. When I was in the Ultimate Fighter, that was a great opportunity. But then I got a really bad skin infection. Bueno, en los últimos días no me he estado sintiendo bien. Me han salido muchas ronchas en esta parte de la cara. Tengo todo el cuello lleno de eso, la oreja. Tengo mi espalda llena de eso y no sé qué es eso.
This is primarily an inflammatory condition of the skin and also the internal organs. It's probably not a good idea to fight right now. Okay. I'm sorry.
When they give me the news, I cannot compete. The first thing I thought was like, I'm not gonna be able to provide. I'm not gonna be able to do what I promised I came here to do.
We don't want you to fight if you're not 100%. Obviously, this is a huge blow to you, you know, not to be able to move forward and possibly, you know, win the Ultimate Fighter. But we will absolutely, positively bring you back, and you will fight in the finale.
Thanks. Thank you, boss.
You're welcome.
He decided to give me a chance. That was just like seeing light at the end of the tunnel.
Marlon Chito Vera making the walk for his UFC debut.
What a story, so touching and so emotional, and you see it in his face.
Marlon Chito Vera!
The goal was just be a UFC fighter, keep on fighting, and just putting the money aside,
Oh, look at this. Vera with a triangle attempt here. Now attacking with the armbar. He got tapped. Chito Vera!
I'm here because I will make the surgery for my daughter. I am not going to stop till I see my daughter smiling. That's my reason I'm here. I'm here to stay.
We heard the corner of Vera say, do this for your family.
Hopefully they can raise the $50,000 or so required to have that procedure.
Hit him with that round day!
everything was about that kid be able to smile and make sure we do that.
Chito's moved to the US, he's brought his family over in December as well, and that is really his motivation for fighting.
When I was in Ecuador, I was by myself. I was with really good people, but wasn't enough. Today, I have really good people in my back. And thanks to this, I can provide for my family.
Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for Chito Vera!
Eventually, one day, we can make this happen, and we call the doctors, like, hey, doc, we got the money.
When I met Chito for the first time, he was very much focused on his child. He was very much focused on getting his child the best care he can possibly get. Anna's presentation was pretty much the standard presentation for Mobius syndrome, which is to say that both sides were completely paralyzed. She just cannot move her face.
So how you doing, sweetheart? You doing okay? Yeah. All right. So just we'll review it a little bit right now, what we're gonna do, okay?
Smile surgery is also known as facial reanimation surgery. Basically involves moving another piece of muscle into position and allow that muscle to now function in place of the missing muscle. This is a long surgery. It could take 8 to 10 hours to perform. To say they were nervous is an understatement, obviously, but we were ready for her. I mean, this is what we do.
The day of the surgery, it was like my soul was out of my body.
In a way, it was the worst day of my life because, you know, you're putting a kid under anesthesia, you're fully under, and pretty much they're ripping your face off in order to make this happen. I was just very scared for her. I was like, what if this goes wrong? Because there's a chance. It was a long day. It was probably the longest day of my life.
Anna's surgery was an absolute success. It went smoothly. We had no complications. She did actually quite well overnight.
Anna was so swollen after the surgery that it was shocking. I know Chito's really strong, he's tough, he's a UFC fighter, but he was pale.
I almost fainted. It was just, as a father, just shocked me to see her like that. It was basically a week until the face went back to normal. And seeing this smile for the first time was pretty much the best day of my life.
We did see our daughter smile, that it was the most important thing in our life. But I believe that Anna came to this world to give that purpose to Chito. Like, no matter what, I'm gonna be there just to see my daughter smile. That was his main purpose. He's in this position now because of Anna. Like, Anna pushed him through that. Like, every sacrifice that he made for us is just worth it.
It was a lot of pressure, you know, going to a fight knowing I'm not just fighting for money. I'm not fighting for recognition. I'm fighting to pay a salary for my daughter's smile.
I moved 2 years ago here. I moved on myself. I left my family in Ecuador. I make some money over here. My daughter was needing that surgery, but guess what? I get that shit done, baby.
It was like, that is, and that will be the biggest accomplishment of my life ever.
This kid can do it all. He trains hard, he's super dedicated.
It has been an absolute joy to watch him rise to prominence and superstardom.
When you work hard, when you do everything to win, when you put everything aside, life gives you a good victory.
He was born for this. He was built for this. This is who he is. He's out.
Cruises down after a huge shot, and Chito ends it. Wow!
He is taking fighting for his family to another level.
Marlon Chito Vera, ladies and gentlemen.
¿Tú sabes qué es lo que más me gusta de ti? Tu sonrisa.
Tijuana's Yazmin Jauregui has one goal: to become the UFC's first Mexican-born female champion. The undefeated strawweight won convincingly in her 2022 debut, a performance made even more impressive after she revealed it was nearly derailed by a cartel uprising in her home city. We find out more about Yazmin and her dramatic journey to the Octagon in this edition of Fighter Focus.
You're looking at Yazmin Jauregui from nearby Tijuana, Mexico, as she makes her UFC debut.
I am very, very excited for this fight. This lady, she can fight and she is vicious.
Es importante para mí representar una historia de éxito en México, porque eso es lo que soy. Represento muchas cosas a la vez: el trabajo, el amor, la dedicación, y todo eso me lo ha dado mi México.
Oh! I mean, you can hear that one echo around the arena.
Oh, she hurt.
Massive left hook.
She's hurt. Lucinda got hurt. And these two women are putting on a show. What a fight.
Yo me veo como la futura primera campeona de México. Tenía 15 años de edad cuando conocí esta hermosa arte. Me encantaba, estaba enamorada y estaba empapándome mucho, entonces me hacía muy feliz que ver que cada día había una nueva versión de Yazmin, un nuevo aprendizaje. Para mí eso era increíble y quería demostrarle eso a la gente, ¿no? A los 6 meses estaba ya peleando.
¡Uy, qué buen volado derecho!
¡Oh!
¡Al suelo! Le abrió le sacó sangre. Fíjense cómo tiene el rostro ya muy lastimado.
Tuve peleas duras, sin embargo era muy pequeña, entonces de cierta manera tenía mucha inmadurez, era como todo un juego para mí, el aprender, el pasarla chido. Y entonces yo fui mamá a la edad de los 18 años. Cuando Matías llegó a mi vida, cuando realicé mi familia, cuando empezaron a haber problemas económicos también, aprendí a madurar, aprendí a que de esto se podía hacer algo increíble y empecé a visualizarme dentro de UFC. Entonces fue cuando yo me inspiré a decir, yo creo que yo puedo lograr grandes cosas de aquí. Fue difícil ser madre soltera, pues poder dividir mi tiempo entre ser madre y ser atleta era muy difícil para mí. Mamá tiene que trabajar. ¿Quieres palomitas? Y ahí ingresaba mi niño muy pequeño al gimnasio, recién nacido, en una cunita lo tenía, hacía todas mis sesiones de entrenamiento. Al mismo tiempo también estaba amamantando a Matías, estaba cambiándole los pañales, haciendo pequeños breaks para checar que el niño estuviera lo más cómodo posible, ¿no? He tenido momentos y etapas muy difíciles en mi vida, pero sin embargo, como te digo, nunca quité el dedo del renglón. Están calientes, ¿eh? Y empecé a visualizarme con rivales dentro de UFC y eso me agradaba, me motivaba todos los días. Me imaginaba que yo podía darles algo más allá de pelear solamente, ¿me entiendes? Entonces ingresé aquí a Entram Gym, venía todos los días para cada vez mejorar, cada vez aprender más.
Acuérdense, la que está pasando por el cuello es la que protejo, porque el cielo a mis manos entró a matarle.
Es mi segundo hogar y todos vienen aquí y trabajan súper duro. Somos un gimnasio muy competitivo y el ambiente es increíble. Brandon es una motivación muy grande, pues muchos años estuvo entrenando con nosotros. Ver el éxito de Brandon Moreno, claro que me motivó. Me motivó porque nosotros vimos todo ese camino para llegar hasta donde está ahorita. A eso me dice que nosotros estamos haciendo las cosas bien, que vamos por el mismo camino, que lo único que tenemos que hacer es seguir trabajando duro y lo más importante es tener una mentalidad de campeón. Cuando yo estaba a punto de debutar dentro de UFC en la ciudad de Tijuana, había un caos enorme sobre incendios y vandalismo de personas delictivas, llamémoslo así. Siempre hay situaciones muy y feas y tristes aquí. Fue un poquito estresante y triste a la vez. Me preocupaba por mi mamá y mi hijo, claro que sí. Nadie me quería compartir esa noticia. Me entristece saber que existe violencia en México, claro que me entristece. Sin embargo, como te digo, hacia lo que hago para lograr enfocarme en la pelea. Mi debut de UFC fue en la ciudad de San Diego, en la Arena Pachengo.
I'm most excited for her making a debut than I have been for a lot of women that come to the UFC lately.
Mi oponente fue Yazmin Lucindo, una brasileña que también debutó con un récord muy bueno.
This fight's going to be something. Jauregui fights at an insane pace. She is so aggressive. The hands are lining. Oh!
There's the right hand. Lucindo firing back.
Massive shots.
The chants from this pro-Mexico crowd just across the border for Yazmin Jauregui.
Yo escuchaba a la gente gritando y todo ese ruido y la verdad es que era hermoso.
Yazmin Jauregui, Yazmin Lucindo, 23 years old and 20 years old respectively.
What an incredible debut for both ladies.
Se mantiene invicta de Tijuana, Yazmin Jauregui.
She has got charisma, she's good on the microphone, she fights as good as anyone. And I told you before, Brandon Moreno said she's going to be a champion.
Heady company with Brandon Moreno out of Entrim Gym, his former training home in Tijuana.
El día de ayer me imagino que te enteraste, ¿no? Sobre todo por tu hijo que está en Tijuana, lo que pasó en cuanto a la situación de la violencia.
Luego cuando me di cuenta de la noticia, mi mamá ya me había mandado un mensaje de que no me preocupara, que mi hijo y mi familia estaban bien. Yo me siento triste por Tijuana, la verdad, porque es una ciudad con muchas oportunidades. Yo tuve la mía ahí crecí en este deporte y yo peleo por mi familia y por mi México. El poder ser una motivación para alguien más, el que alguien más se sienta identificado, eso a mí me hace un día, la verdad. Yo realmente quiero marcar huella, nada más en México, sino también a nivel mundial. Quisiera marcar historia como muchos lo hicieron y que me recuerden. Eso es lo mejor para una persona.
Trained in martial arts since the age of 3, kickboxer Stephen Thompson ran his record to 57-0 before moving to MMA. And in the first fight of the night on a Las Vegas pay-per-view card, Wonderboy made his highly anticipated Octagon debut. All eyes were on Thompson as the world champion striker announced himself as a force in the welterweight division. We sit down now with the perennial contender to relive the head kick that started it all in day one.
UFC 143 was my UFC debut.
We got a badass card for you guys tomorrow night.
Coming into the UFC, I was 57-0, undefeated in the world of kickboxing, and I was fighting a guy named Dan Stigen. I knew he was a grappler, a very strong grappler at that. It was kind of like a classic grappler versus striker scenario. Fight night of UFC 143 was super chill. That was the very first fight on this card. So when I walked out, there was literally nobody in the stands yet.
Thompson has an incredible combined kickboxing record of 57-0 with 40 knockouts.
Really an amazing opportunity we have tonight to watch this gentleman in his UFC debut. This really should be exciting.
What was so epic about this, why I remember this so much, was I had GSP, George St. Pierre, my idol. My inspiration to switch from kickboxing to MMA was in my corner. And at the time, like, my grappling skills were like limited to like 0. That's how green I was coming into this fight. It was crazy. So I had to keep this fight standing and knock this dude out.
Stephen Thompson, set to make his UFC debut here tonight in Vegas.
You know, when you look across at your opponent, you're trying to soak up as much as possible. What he's thinking, what he's feeling, where he's at mentally, you know? You're just counting down the milliseconds before it's go time. I know the fight doesn't start until they lock that octagon. As soon as Bruce Buffer walks out of that cage, I look over at the guy, and it was like slow motion. And after that, everything else is just a blur, because there's no thinking out there. It's all reaction.
And here we go.
I knew he was tough. He looked very, very strong, but for some reason, in that fight, his coaches wanted him to stand and strike with me, which I, to this day, am like baffled at why they would want that to happen. I knew my opponent, he likes to throw a jab, but every time he threw a jab, that hand started to drop. So I knew that the left side of his face was open. So what I did was, I was like, okay, I gotta get this guy to jab at me. So I literally dropped my hands and stuck my face out.
Stephen Thompson, he has done very little damage here in the first round.
Oh, that's a wrap.
I threw my jab, my right hand came over top of his jab hand. That's when I brought my right leg up and landed right across his jaw. Referee came in and stopped it, and it was over. Hands up, ninja flip at the end, AKA corkscrew, landed it perfectly, and that was it. What was so cool about it is that my fight went viral just from the crazy knockout and the ninja flip I did.
Declaring the winner by knockout, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson.
The whole experience of my first event was just epic, and I'm so thankful for GSP for being there. As soon as I stepped out of that ring, man, he was there. I gave him a big hug, told him thank you.
Hey, you could have done better. You couldn't have done better.
One of my favorite fights of all time was UFC 143, my debut.
Well, that wraps us up for this season of UFC Connected. But don't worry, we'll be back next year. But until then, I will see you at the fight.